Within Trench Crusade, one of the most powerful sources of magic for the forces of the court of the seven-headed serpent is inverting symbols and ideas of the creator to empower themselves. So, within this video, we're going to go over examples of this from various lore sources and discuss the idea and why it is so effective, and look at a hint of where Goetic magic might have come from. So, welcome back to the trenches, and let's begin. This idea came from a recent lore drop. There it said, "Of all the myriad obsidian tables, sacrificial stones, totems and graven images, it is the blasphemous idols of the golden calf that are the best known and most dreaded by the faithful. These idols represent slaughter on an industrial scale, for many of the greatest of heretic weapons require the reality warping corruption of Goetic magic to function." That's one example that gave me the wider idea for this video. Across the lore, we also have other examples too, which we will get into in a moment. But let's look at the source of this magic, or at least a possible source. Within the lore it says each Oxia sorcerer carries a book copied from the Crusade, the original tomb of Goetic magic, said to have been written by the angel Samael, who is also known as the Venom of God. Now that's the only example I can find within the lore for Samael. Within real-world history, it said Samael, in Jewish folkloric and mystical tradition, is the true name of Satan. According to tradition, Samael is the king of all demons, the angel of death, the husband of the demonic Lilith. There is mention of the handmaidens of Lilith within the Church of Metamorphosis lore, so that could track. Now, whether he's the devil or a devil, it would make for him to be able to figure out, whilst in heaven, some way to subvert the plans of God before his downfall. Write it down. There is also a note that he is associated with the left, which ties in name at least, with the demons from hell who hunt for the court of the seven-headed serpent, those who follow the left-handed path. In terms of demons having many names, that's true throughout history, and we already have Beelzebub being the role of Baal, Lord of the Flies, so there is a precedent for that. But on the other side, he's also mentioned in the Book of Enoch. He's one of the named angels, one of several who rebel against God, not their leader. In the second book, he's named as a prince of demons and a magician, and throughout history is given as one of the names of the devil and his own being as well. It varies on the sources that you draw upon, but it builds up over history, which is why, for example, Lilith is added. With some beliefs, Lilith was the first wife of Adam. Anyway, and throughout these sources, it varies his name, but we'll stick to the one given within the law for the moment. Now back to the profane. One of the interesting examples we have with the law is how Beelzebub in his city Ekron gains power by profane acts. Here's a little excerpt from that law. Entire temples, churches, mosques, pagodas, shrines and altars from every corner of the world are scattered throughout the city, borne there by the hands of untold millions of Grail thralls. Amid streets seething with undead corruption stand wonders of art, marble statues, elegant pillars, frescoes and icons of gold studded with precious stones. Beelzebub can tap into these objects of devotion, feeding on the power of adoration that still lingers in these monuments of faith. Now back to that in 1 second. We also have mention of people popped up to upside down crosses, an obvious but powerful version of heresy, and all this generates power from the members of the court of the seven-headed serpent. Your specialist subject they will choose could be sin, for example. I also find this line from the law early intriguing. Beelzebub can tap into these objects of devotion, feeding on the power of adoration that still lingers in these monuments of faith. To me, that explains that belief and the associated item holds some power due to their association with the creator, and so to pervert that also holds power to go against it and blaspheme it. That taps into, I assume, Goetic magic, and that's what gives it power. So I can list off another few lore examples for you, but let's dig into this concept a little deeper. Just warning you now, this next section goes all over the place as I was coming up with various ideas. The first is the subversion of something that is already there within people that gives Goetic magic power, the sorceress, if you will. Jesus in the Bible, or the Antichrist in Trench Crusade, can perform miracles. Where does that come from? We see in the Bible, amongst many gods, Son can turn water to wine, heal the son of a nobleman who is close to death, and pull an impure spirit out of a man in a synagogue. And we have several creatures of the court of the seven-headed serpent who use what's left of their angel power. Law says for Moloch, a serpent head, that he created yoke things and sorcerers and hell knights using blackened shards of broken fallen angels to give them a semblance of life. So angel power remains in small amounts within their forms, even after their forms have been cut down to very small shards. It seems to be in their body, perhaps like the Metachrist. Side thought, did the court have some sort of civil war in the past? They do seem to have lots of angel parts lying around to make these creatures from. Anyway, perhaps if you fall from grace as one of the serpent heads, it could be a fate to be shattered down into small parts to make other creatures with. So when the serpent heads get the power from prayer, could they get that as angels would have done? I'm sure opinions will vary. One that matches this query from gotquestions.org says, despite the ministries that angels carry out for believers, it is important to remember that God is the one who ultimately sends them. Angels do not act on their own accord, nor are they omniscient or omnipresent. The whole angels do God's bidding. If that was true, then going against his bidding, profaning it, would seem to have the opposite effect. What other aspect can we think about? From the demon philosophers of the second circle, they state that the more nihilistic and fatalistic schools of thought say there is no rebellion and believe they are simply following God's plan laid out at the very beginning of creation. They have no say in the matter. It is their nature to persecute humanity and to eventually topple the Creator as the world he created becomes ever more sullied and tainted due to their acts. So if this is all part of the Creator's plan, and if what they believe is true, would they not follow that Goetic magic? And how they raise it with profanity is also part of the plan, and the destruction Goetic magic causes in the Creator's powers or plan are also part of events that he might not have foreseen, but that he is prepared for, like MacGyver. Those are my thoughts. I appreciate this video is all over the place, but I wanted to cover the profanity angle, and then it just kept stretching out to include more ideas. Now, I doubt we will get answers on these things, likely like further hints, which I like because we can add it to the overall lore and opinions. Now I ask you, on which side do you fall? I prefer the idea that free will means God could but will not step in within the Crusade conflict, and so he allows events to proceed, backing humanity through his saints, aiding the others, aiding humanity with free will. Humanity, if you think about it, is kind of what the conflict is about, their soul, on which side it falls, and whose side humanity will side with in the end. So let me know what you think to these points we've discussed, and if you like this video on Crusade, then you might also like this one. And if you want a number of videos on Crusade, then why not check out the playlist on the channel. I also cover 40k, and at best out about 3 of them a week, and at worst, just one on a Saturday, which is where I've been recently, at that point on the needle. There are 2 playlists for that. One has everything and is well into the hundreds at this point. The other focuses on a favourite period of mine called the Dark Age of Technology, which I'm wanting to return to soon. Historically, and to return one day, I did a load of videos on Dune, which also has its own playlist on the channel. I have a few ideas for that, but I'm just trying to get ahead on other subjects in order to cover them. There's also a playlist for The Expanse book and TV series, most of the books, and a short playlist for the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio and Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And that's the end of the video. I'm currently working on how the spirits of soldiers are broken by the court so that they join their side, focusing on the philosophy that the soldiers suffer, which we have a little lore on within what's told to us. And that's where I wrap up the video. Good night.